Alison, I'm going to start with you because this movie started with you. You're discovering a book. I want to ask you about the first time that you read this book and why you thought it was something that you had to attach yourself to and try to get made for 7 years.
Well, I was producing an independent film called Terry that Asa Jacobs directed, and it was we had adapted a short story also written by Patrick DeWitt, from some unpublished work, and we had a great time doing that adaptation, and he wrote the screenplay, and we shot that movie, and John ended up being in the movie, and he was wonderful, and at the end of that process, Asa, the director, said to me, you know, Patrick just finished his second novel, and there's a part in it that I think would be great for John. So through some maneuvering, I was able to get that manuscript, it was this thick, and read it before it was published. And I just remember, you know, staying up all night, and my heart was racing. I think I finished it as the sun was coming up, and I just knew it was that good. And so John and I were fortunate through this relationship we had just established with Patrick to option it before it was published, which was key, because then it went on to be, you know, shortlisted for a Man Booker, and it won all these awards, and we would have never been able to get it otherwise, I don't think. But then as the profile of the book rose, our project sort of changed too. You know, we started to get calls from Hollywood, and we realized we had to really focus and figure out how we were going to make this movie and make it, just make it the best possible version of itself that it could be.
Yeah, having the rights to this book before it was published felt like getting the secret to the formula for the gold in the river before the Commodore, you know? Because we knew once that formula was published in the paper, they'd come looking for us.
At what point does Jacques become part of the conversation?
Yes. Sorry?
Oh, no, he's asking how. Oh, so
At what point does...
I had been, I've had a couple of good ideas in my life, and this was one of them. But I've just been a giant fan of Jacques' work. I think John and I saw Read My Lips in the theater near here, actually, in 2001, and we were just blown away. And then I've sort of been tracking with all of his films. And when we were starting to think about who would really be best at the helm of this material, I kept thinking of Jacques' work as it's so gritty and muscular and tough in a way, but yet there is also a delicacy. There's this emotional undercurrent that's so beautiful, and you kind of have to work for it as an audience too. You have to ask for a certain level of engagement. I think there's always a giant payoff when that happens as well. So it just seemed like the right mix, and John, of course, was on board, and so Jacques was at Toronto with Rust and Bone. He had just done Rust and Bone, and we flew to meet him, and Thomas was there, and I'll let John describe that meeting because it was sort of fun.
Okay.
And at some point, we have to let Jacques talk. He came all the way from France to be here. But.
No, this is a setup. We'll just.
No, we
J'adore vous entendre parler.
I like to hear him talk.
J'adore vous entendre parler de moi.
I like when you talk about me.
Well, we went to Toronto, and we had never met Jacques, and yeah, he was there for Rust and Bone, and Alison has produced many movies before, but this was my first time, and so it was our first time as a pair trying to pull this off. And in the beginning, we felt like, sort of like kids dressed up in adults' clothes, like, yeah, we're going to meet with a world-famous director now and show him this property we have. We felt really, out of our league. And so we had dinner the night before this meeting in Toronto, and we found this great little French restaurant, and we're like, oh, this is perfect. Oh, the vibe in here, it's French. We have to come here tomorrow for lunch. And so we asked the owner of the restaurant, can we make a reservation, please, for tomorrow for lunch? And he said, oh, no, we're not open for lunch. We're never open for lunch. And then, we followed up the next day with a pathetic phone call, and he opened the restaurant for us. And so it was just these three people from France, these three people from America sitting down like a mafia détente.
Empty, in an empty restaurant.
And we slid this book across the table like a pile of money, I think Jacques was suspicious at first. You know, beware of strangers bearing gifts, but
C'est vrai que j'étais terrifié en fait.
I was terrified, of course.
On m'avait dit plein de choses sur les acteurs américains, mais
Many things about American actors, and
j'avais l'impression que c'était vrai tout
I
à coup.
felt like it was true.
Thomas, I want to ask you about the adaptation because Worm and Morris are not major characters in the novel, and they become a major part of the story. What were the conversations about elevating their role in the film, and why was that important?
Tu veux que je traduise?
Yeah, okay. He wants to translate now. No, it was we needed something. The book it's marvelous. It was really it seduced us immediately, but it's written in the first person. Really, it's really the story of Eli, and it's a lot of inner monologues and the inner thoughts of Eli discovering the world. So we needed, in order to keep the tension that we need in the film, we needed to develop another couple. So actually, it's really the story of two couples. Now it ended up being that, so that there will be tension, and it really the rhythm of the film will be the rhythm of the chase. We needed that, and there were other things that we had to add it to it, like the utopia, the idea that Worm has, that adds another layer to the story. It's not just the gold for the gold, it's the gold because there's a plan, there's an idea behind it, and it becomes then an idealist now. And we don't spend the whole movie talking about money or the gold. We talk about an idea. So I think that added another layer also to the story.
So what were your conversations with your cinematographer, Benoit Dibé, about the color and about where the camera could go? Because we don't typically see a camera go underwater in a film in the 1850s.
Non, c'est veut dire la caméra.
La question avec Deby et sur les couleurs, les
Ouais.
cadrages.
Et comment je cherchais, de même que pour moi et pour Tom, c'est un conte, c'est autant un conte qu'un
It
western.
appeared to us that it was as much a fairy tale as it is a western.
Que nous, notre référence, c'est La Nuit du Chasseur.
And our main reference was Night of the Hunter.
Comment formellement c'est La Nuit du Chasseur.
Formally, it really was that.
Et que comment je trouve que, en fait, quand je pense à la photo de Cortés dans la Nuit du
When
Chasseur,
I remember Cortés' photography
qui est un noir et blanc d'un contraste énorme,
extremely contrasted, black and white.
je voulais, d'une certaine façon, trouver des couleurs de conte, des couleurs très très fortes, très contrastées,
I
très
wanted
saturées.
to look for very strong colors that would be like in a fairy tale,
Comme un album, comme
like
dans
in
un
a
album.
book of image.
Et donc, en fait, il n'y a pas beaucoup, en Europe, il n'y a pas beaucoup, je trouve, de chefs opérateurs qui traitent vraiment la couleur.
And in
Et
Europe,
je
there's
pense
not-
que Deby est un des rares.
In Europe, there's not that many DP that work with many colors, and Benoit Deby is definitely one
Si
of
je
them.
pense au travail qu'il fait avec Harmonie Corinne, c'est presque baroque.
I think of the work he does with Harmonie Corinne. It's very baroque.
John, at what point does Joaquin become part of the story? How does that happen? And how much time do you have as actors to talk about this material either before you start filming or while you're on set?
talking about material with Joaquin is tough. Well, first of all, I should point out that, you know, when we hitched our wagon to Jacques, it became Jacques' film at that point. You know, like the book is one thing, and then Jacques' expression of the book is another. And so we were really keen to have that quality to the film because we knew, like, that's how good movies are made. They're not made by hiring a director the way you would hire an actor or something. So Jacques had total freedom to do whatever he wanted with this movie, with the one caveat that I could be in it. Hey, even though I was hoping to play that character, I had to be like, but, you know, whatever, I'm easy. To be the shopkeeper, or when it came down to casting the other roles, you know, Jacques, of course, is a great collaborator, you know, but he has the final say. So he'd sort of poll people, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And he asked me, like, well, who would you see as your brother? Once I started to imagine who could be my brother and who I could really care for that much and be that connected to, Joaquin it had to be him. I didn't say that to Jacques, of course, because I had to let it be Jacques' decision, and I was just fingers crossed, and it's like, they're having a phone call today, you know, like, and then he offered it to him on the phone, like, first phone call, like, wow, okay, good. We're off to a good start. And that said, when Joaquin and I started to work together, I realized, even though I'd met him a couple times through Paul Anderson, I really didn't know him at all. At all. It was hard for us to even make eye contact at first. And I'm pretty adaptable with people, you know. It was just too intense for us or something. So anyway, to go back to my first joke, you don't really talk about material with Joaquin. You just kind of show up, and you spend as much time together as possible, and that's what we did. We rode horses and we shot guns, and we'd walk around in southern Spain, where a ton of westerns have been shot, by the way, in Almeria, where we began. That town there was built by Sergio Leone, literally. And so we would walk for hours and hours around Almeria in silence for the most part, because I just realized, like, if I ask this guy to, you know, come towards me, he's going to run the other way. Like, and that's what we quickly realized. He's such an instinctual actor that if you make a suggestion, his first instinct's going to be like, yeah, let's not do that. You know, like, and he taught me some valuable things as an actor, or he reminded me of some valuable things as an actor. You know, I started out in the theater in Chicago, and following your instincts and being in the moment is like the heart of improvisation, and that's where I really learned how to be an actor, was through improvisation classes. And so the whole thing is like, improv is like not coming up with kind of a plan beforehand and then maybe it'll happen. Improv is like going in blind, like with nothing. And Joaquin, and a couple times, you know, sometimes on movie sets you get nervous, you know, like at least I do anyway, and I'm one of these people who like wants to say the thing, right? I'm mad at you in this scene, right? And it probably comes from insecurity or fear. You want some affirmation from the other actor to say, like, yeah, of course, I'm mad at you about the thing. And then you say, yeah, duh. Okay, let's go do the scene. Like, but Joaquin was like, don't talk about that. I was like, but don't fucking do that. Well, I'm sorry, I know what you're doing it because you're insecure. I was like, no, I'm not. Fuck you. Like, we would have these crazy brotherly conversations. By the end of it, we were really like fully Eli and Charlie. We're living together and cooking dinner for each other every night and driving to and from work together. We're like shoulder to shoulder all weekend. So it made me realize, like, you know, what another actor is doing is none of your business. And that what I'm doing is none of his business. In fact, we started to work with Jacques in a way where Jacques would go and talk to him, and then he would go and talk to me, because I think Joaquin just found it so embarrassing to be directed in front of someone else, because then if I knew Jacques asked him to like pick up the pace in this or that, and then he didn't do it, I would have failed. You know, he would think he failed in my eyes or something. Anyway, it was a real interesting journey.
John, Alison, Jacques, Thomas, thank you so much for bringing your films to us.